Commander Vex'tar of the Zephyrian Inquisition Corps adjusted his ceremonial pain inflictors with the kind of satisfaction that comes from being really good at making people miserable. Standing 7 feet tall with skin the color of an angry sunset and eyes like black holes that had given up on life, he was what you might call intimidating if you were being polite, or the stuff of nightmares if you were being honest. His office walls were decorated with trophies from broken mines across 17 star systems. Not actual trophies, mind you, because that would be gauche. Instead, he had tastefully framed psychological profiles of former prisoners, each one stamped with information extracted in that lovely shade of bureaucratic red that said your suffering has been properly documented. Vex'tar, his superior, Admiral Throcknoll, slithered into the chamber with all the grace of a 3-legged spider having a bad day. "I trust you've reviewed the files on our latest acquisition?" Vex'tar's mandibles clicked with amusement. "The human? Please. I've broken crystalline monks who've spent centuries perfecting mental fortitude. I've reduced titanium-willed mercenaries to sobbing puddles of regret. This Riley Martinez is supposedly just a cargo hauler from a backwater planet that hasn't even figured out proper, faster-than-light travel." The Admiral's eye stalks waggled uncertainly. "The intelligence reports suggest humans might be more resilient than anticipated." "Resilient?" Vex'tar laughed, a sound like grinding metal having an argument with broken glass. "Admiral, I've studied their species. They're soft, pink, mostly water, and they cry when they're sad. They keep small animals as companions and name them things like Mr. Whiskers. They have emotional attachments to inanimate objects. Half their entertainment involves watching other humans fail at simple tasks while they eat processed sugar and complain about their weather." He gestured grandly at his interrogation chamber, a sterile symphony of psychological warfare equipment. Mind scramblers hummed quietly in the corners, ready to turn thoughts into alphabet soup. Neural disruptors hung from the ceiling like technological stalactites, designed to make the subject's worst fears seem like pleasant daydreams compared to reality. The centerpiece was his pride and joy, the empathy amplifier, a device that could make someone feel the emotional weight of every disappointed parent in the galaxy simultaneously. Besides, Vex'tar continued, polishing a neural probe with the enthusiasm of a chef sharpening his favorite knife, humans are pack animals. They depend on social bonds for psychological stability. Isolate them, and they begin talking to imaginary friends, challenge their worldview, and they retreat into denial. Apply the proper pressure, and they'll tell you anything you want to know just to make the loneliness stop. The Admiral's tentacles twitched nervously. "Still, perhaps we should exercise caution. There are reports of humans displaying unexpected capabilities in previous encounters." "Caution?" Vex'tar's laugh could have curdled milk across 3 solar systems. "Admiral, by the time I'm finished with this Riley Martinez, he'll be begging to tell me the location of every human colony, the composition of their fleets, and probably his grandmother's recipe for whatever passes for food in their primitive culture." The chamber's door hissed open with mechanical precision, revealing the holding area where one very ordinary-looking human sat in a containment field, apparently fascinated by the way the energy barrier made his fingertips tingle when he touched it. "Look at him," Vex'tar whispered with predatory satisfaction, already displaying the signs of intellectual curiosity that will be his downfall. "Humans are compulsive problem solvers, Admiral. Present them with a puzzle, and they can't help but try to solve it. I'll simply make myself the puzzle he needs to solve, and in trying to understand me, he'll reveal everything about himself." Admiral Throcknoll's eye stalks drooped with resignation. "Very well, Commander. But I want a full report within 6 standard hours." "Admiral," Vex'tar said, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a smile among his species, "give me 2 hours, and I'll have him drawing maps." Vex'tar made his entrance with all the theatrical flair of a dramatic villain in a particularly expensive space opera. The chamber's lights dimmed to ominous, shadow-casting levels. Ominous music began playing from hidden speakers. Even the air circulation system seemed to develop a menacing hum, as if the very atmosphere was now complicit in psychological torture. The human looked up with the mild interest of someone who'd just noticed it was raining. Riley Martinez, Vex'tar intoned, his voice echoing with manufactured authority. You stand before the most feared interrogator in 17 star systems. I am Commander Vex'tar, and I have broken minds that would make your species' greatest philosophers weep with inadequacy. Riley blinked. Wow, that's quite a bio. Do you have business cards? Because that would make an excellent tagline. Very memorable. This was not the cowering terror Vex'tar had expected. I am here to extract information from your primitive mind, human. You will tell me everything about your species' military capabilities, your hidden colonies, and your strategic weaknesses. Oh, cool, Riley said, leaning forward with genuine interest. Before we get started, can I ask about your anatomy? I mean, those are clearly mandibles, right? Do you chew side to side or more of an up and down motion? And those eye stalks, is the range of motion pretty good? Can you look behind yourself? That would be so handy for checking blind spots. Vex'tar's carefully prepared intimidation routine came to a screeching halt. What? Sorry, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, Riley continued cheerfully. I'm a cargo hauler, so I meet a lot of different species, but I've never seen a Zephyrian up close. Your skin has this really interesting iridescent quality. Is that natural or more of a synthetic enhancement? No judgment either way, I'm just curious about the biology. Silence. Vex'tar roared, though it came out less commanding and more confused. You will answer my questions. Absolutely, shoot, Riley said, settling back in his chair like they were at a coffee shop. Though I should warn you up front, I'm not really military or anything. I mean, I haul cargo between stations, so I know shipping routes and fuel stops, but if you're looking for state secrets, you might be disappointed. Want me to start with what I do know? The coffee on Station Epsilon 7 is terrible, but they make up for it with really excellent sandwiches. Vex'tar's left eye stalk twitched. This was definitely not going according to the manual. He activated his first truth serum, a lovely cocktail of neurochemicals that should have had Riley babbling uncontrollably about classified information. Tell me about Earth's military installations, Vex'tar commanded. Riley's pupils dilated slightly as the serum took effect, and then he began talking with the unstoppable enthusiasm of someone who had just been given permission to discuss their favorite topic. Oh man, I don't really know about military stuff, but I can tell you about this documentary I saw about military rations. Did you know they've been trying to make them taste good for centuries? There was this whole segment about how they finally figured out how to make pizza that doesn't taste like cardboard. But then it turns out soldiers actually missed the cardboard taste because it reminded them of home. Isn't that weird? Humans are so nostalgic about the dumbest things. Military installations. Vex'tar pressed, increasing the serum's potency. I mean, I assume they exist? I've never been to one. Oh, but I did see this reality show where they followed around military families, and let me tell you, the drama was unreal. There was this one episode where a guy's wife bought the wrong brand of cereal. And it turned into this huge fight about communication and trust, and I'm thinking, it's just cereal, you know? But then by the end of the episode, you realize it was never about the cereal at all. Vex'tar stared at his prisoner, who was now enthusiastically explaining the plot of what appeared to be the most mundane television program in the galaxy, complete with detailed character analysis and theories about symbolic meaning. The truth serum was working perfectly. Riley was being completely honest. He was just being honest about absolutely nothing useful. What about your ship's navigation data? Vex'tar tried desperately. Oh, that's easy. I go from point A to point B, usually with stops at point C for fuel and point D for snacks. Though last week I had to make an unscheduled stop at point F, because apparently someone in shipping thought it was hilarious to load my cargo hold with live chickens without mentioning it. Do you know how hard it is to explain to station security why your ship is making clucking noises? Vex'tar decided it was time to escalate to physical persuasion. Clearly, this human's brain was too primitive to respond to chemical intervention. It's time to introduce some proper pain. He activated the neural agony amplifier, a device that could make a stubbed toe feel like being trampled by a herd of especially vindictive elephants. The machine hummed to life with the kind of ominous energy that suggested expensive suffering was about to commence. Riley winced as the pain hit him, then tilted his head thoughtfully. Ooh, that's interesting. Is that targeting nerve endings directly, or are you somehow amplifying natural pain responses? Because the sensation is very localized, but there's also this weird echo effect. It is the neural agony amplifier, Vex'tar announced with satisfaction. It is designed to cause unbearable suffering. Neat. You know what, though? The frequency seems a little off. I'm getting pain, sure, but there's also this weird tingling that's almost pleasant. You might want to recalibrate the neural interface. Also, and I'm not trying to be critical here, but the user interface on that control panel looks incredibly user-unfriendly. Who designed that layout? Everything's scattered around like someone just threw buttons at a wall and hoped for the best. Vex'tar cranked up the intensity. Riley grimaced but continued his critique. Okay, that's definitely more painful. But now I'm also getting some muscle spasms that seem counterproductive to the whole interrogation process. If I can't control my facial muscles, how are you supposed to read my expressions for tells? And the spasms are making it hard to talk clearly, which defeats the purpose, right? You should be screaming. Vex'tar snarled, pushing the machine to maximum intensity. Riley's face contorted with pain, but he managed to gasp out, "This is maybe a 6 out of 10 on the pain scale. 7 tops. You should have seen me after I tore my ACL playing soccer. Now that was agony. I was laid up for weeks, and the physical therapy was worse than the injury. Plus, insurance only covered half of it, so I was dealing with financial stress on top of the physical pain. That's real suffering, my friend." 6 out of 10? Vex'tar's voice cracked slightly. Yeah, I mean, it hurts, don't get me wrong, but humans are kind of built for discomfort. We evolved as persistence hunters, you know? We literally used to chase animals until they died of exhaustion. Our whole deal is just being uncomfortably stubborn about everything. Plus, I did amateur boxing for a few years. You ever been punched in the face by someone who's been training for it? Because let me tell you, that's a very specific kind of educational experience. Vex'tar stared at the human, who was now offering suggestions for improving the ergonomics of torture equipment while casually enduring what should have been mind-breaking agony. Something cold was beginning to form in the pit of his stomach, and it wasn't indigestion. "What manner of creature are you?" he whispered. Riley looked genuinely confused by the question. "I'm just a regular human, dude. Pretty standard model, honestly. I'm not even particularly tough by human standards. You should meet my cousin Danny. That guy once got hit by a car and his biggest complaint was that it made him late for work. Though to be fair, it was only a small car. And he was already having a bad day because his favorite coffee shop had run out of blueberry muffins." The neural agony amplifier continued humming at maximum intensity, and Riley continued treating it like a mildly annoying background noise while he shared family anecdotes. Vex'tar began to suspect he might have made a slight miscalculation. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Vex'tar deactivated the pain machine and switched to his most potent weapon, psychological manipulation. He was a master at finding emotional weak points and exploiting them with surgical precision. "Tell me about your family, Riley Martinez," he said in the smooth, calculated tone that had broken countless minds. "Oh, they're great. My mom's a teacher, dad's an accountant. Pretty normal stuff. My sister just had a baby, so I'm an uncle now, which is wild. The kid looks like a tiny, angry raisin, but apparently that's normal for human babies. They get cuter as they develop." "And you'll never see them again," Vex'tar pressed, leaning forward with predatory intensity. "You're going to die in this chamber, alone, forgotten, while your family wonders what happened to their beloved Riley." Riley considered this. That would be pretty sad, yeah. Though honestly, if I had to pick a way to go, mysterious disappearance in space is kind of adventurous. Better than most humans get. My great-uncle Harold died choking on a ham sandwich while watching game shows. In comparison, this has a certain romantic quality. Vex'tar's eye stalks drooped. You're not distressed by the thought of never seeing your loved ones again? Well, sure, that would suck, Riley said reasonably. But getting upset about it won't change anything, right? Besides, space travel is dangerous. Anyone who signs up for cargo hauling knows there's a chance you might not come home. My family knew the risks when I took this job. But surely you have unfulfilled dreams, unrealized ambitions, regrets. Riley shrugged. Not really. I mean, I always thought it might be fun to learn how to play the harmonica, but it's not like a burning passion or anything. Life's been pretty good overall. I've seen 17 different star systems, tried food that doesn't exist on Earth, met interesting people, got to see nebulae with my own eyes. That's more than most humans get to experience. Vex'tar felt something cracking inside his carefully constructed worldview. But humans are supposed to be driven by fear, motivated by survival instincts, crippled by the thought of mortality. Oh, we are, Riley agreed cheerfully. But we're also incredibly adaptable. You put us in a bad situation and we just kind of deal with it. It's what we do. Hey, speaking of dealing with things, are you okay? You seem a little stressed. Is this job getting to you? I am the interrogator. Vex'tar snapped. I ask the questions. Right, but you seem unhappy. How long have you been doing this? Because I've got to say, torture as a career path seems like it would be pretty emotionally taxing. Do you have a good support system? Friends outside of work? Hobbies? Vex'tar opened his mouth to assert his dominance. But what came out was, I know. This is my life. This is what I am. Dude, that's not healthy, Riley said with genuine concern. Everyone needs balance. What did you want to be when you were young? Before all this intimidation and mind-breaking stuff? I wanted to be a scholar, Vex'tar admitted, and immediately wondered why he'd said that. I was fascinated by xenobiology, the diversity of life across the galaxy, the way different species adapted to their environments. That's so cool. What changed? My brood sire said scholarship was for weaklings. That strength comes from dominance, and dominance comes from the ability to break others' will. The words tumbled out of Vex'tar's mouth before he could stop them. Riley nodded sympathetically. Ah, daddy issues. Classic. Let me guess, he was probably in the military? High expectations. Never satisfied with your achievements. Always pushing you to be tougher? How did you? Vex'tar's voice trailed off. Humans have the same thing. Some parents think love is conditional on strength. It messes people up pretty bad. But here's the thing, the fact that you originally wanted to study life instead of destroying it, that says something important about who you really are. But I am powerful. Vex'tar protested weakly. I break minds across star systems. And are you happy? Riley asked simply. The question hung in the air like a bomb nobody wanted to defuse. Also, Riley continued conversationally, I should probably mention that Earth's military capabilities are way beyond what your intelligence reports suggest. We're just really good at looking harmless. Vex'tar's world came crashing down with all the subtlety of a collapsing star. What did you say? Oh yeah, the whole primitive human thing is kind of an act, Riley said, as casually as someone mentioning the weather. I mean, we are relatively new to the galactic scene, but humans are really good at learning fast. Especially when it comes to violence. We've been perfecting that for millennia. But you're cargo haulers. Merchants. You cry at entertainment programs. Riley laughed, and for the first time, Vex'tar heard something unsettling in that sound. We're also the species that survived ice ages, plague, world wars, and that period where we almost destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons just to see what would happen. You know what we call that period? Tuesday. This is impossible, Vex'tar whispered. Here's the thing about humans, Riley continued. his voice taking on an educational tone that was somehow more terrifying than any threat. We're persistence predators, like I mentioned. But it's not just about chasing animals until they collapse. We're persistence everything. We don't give up, ever. Put us in an impossible situation and we'll find 17 different ways to make it work for us. Vex'tar's mandibles were trembling now. The intelligence reports said you were peaceful traders. We are. We love trading. It's way more efficient than conquest. Why blow up a planet when you can sell them things they didn't know they needed? But here's what your intelligence missed. Humans don't see a difference between commerce and warfare. They're just different types of competition. You're lying to save yourself. Riley shook his head. Vex'tar, buddy, I'm a cargo hauler. You know what I haul? Sometimes it's grain shipments. Sometimes it's medical supplies. And sometimes his smile turned predatory. It's weapons that make your neural agony amplifier look like a child's toy. The interrogation chamber's door hissed open, and Admiral Throcknell slithered in, eye stalks twitching with agitation. Commander, I've been reviewing the security footage from other human captures across the fleet. And? Vex'tar asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know. They're all doing this, the Admiral said, his voice hollow with realization. Every human we've captured is just sitting there, having pleasant conversations with our best interrogators. Half of our psychological warfare division is currently in therapy. Riley nodded approvingly. Sounds about right. Humans are social creatures. Put us in a room with someone, and we'll try to connect with them. It's instinctive. Even when you're trying to torture us, we can't help but wonder what makes you tick. But why? Vex'tar pleaded. Why not fight back? Why not try to escape? Oh, we could, Riley said matter-of-factly. But this is way more interesting. Plus, we're learning everything about your species, your technology, your psychology. Do you have any idea how valuable this intelligence is? You're basically giving us a complete guide to Zephyrian weaknesses while thinking you're in control. Vex'tar looked at the screens showing security footage from across the fleet. Human after human, all captured, all sitting calmly in interrogation chambers, while hardened Zephyrian interrogators had what appeared to be emotional breakdowns. We never stood a chance, did we? He whispered. Riley's expression softened with genuine sympathy. Vex'tar, this was never about standing chances. This was about first contact between two species who handle conflict completely differently. You guys are used to intimidation and dominance. Humans are used to adaptation and persistence. When you tried to break us, we just adapted to being broken. When you tried to dominate us, we persisted until you got tired. Then what happens now? Vex'tar asked, sounding lost. Now, Riley said gently, you get to decide what kind of person you want to be. The scholar who was fascinated by xenobiology, or the interrogator who was created by someone else's expectations. Admiral Throcknell found them an hour later, still talking. Vex'tar was curled up in a corner, staring at the wall with the 1,000-yard stare of someone whose entire worldview had been gently but thoroughly demolished. Riley was perched on the edge of the interrogation table, apparently in the middle of explaining the concept of career counseling. So the way I see it, Riley was saying, you've got transferable skills, understanding psychology, reading people, managing high-stress situations. Have you ever considered diplomatic work? Because honestly, the galaxy could use more people who understand how different minds work. Commander? The Admiral asked hesitantly. Vex'tar looked up with the expression of someone who had just discovered that everything they thought they knew about the universe was wrong. And surprisingly, they were okay with that. Admiral, I think I need to reevaluate my career choices. The human broke you, didn't he? Actually, Vex'tar said slowly, I think he fixed me. Riley hopped down from the table and reached into his pocket, pulling out what appeared to be a small rectangular card. Here's my contact information. I know this therapist on Kepler Station who specializes in interspecies counseling. Dr. Melody Wong. She's helped a lot of people work through family trauma and career dissatisfaction. The Admiral's eye stalks focused on the card with growing horror. You carry business cards for therapists? Oh, this isn't unusual, Riley said cheerfully. Humans are always trying to help each other with personal growth. It's kind of our thing. We can't see someone struggling without wanting to fix it. But you're a cargo hauler. Riley's smile became mysterious. Well, that's my day job. But I'm also part of the Human Diplomatic Intelligence Service. We've been preparing for first contact with galactic civilization for decades. Spies, the Admiral breathed. Therapists, Riley corrected. The best way to understand a species is to help them understand themselves. Every human you've captured is collecting psychological data on your people while simultaneously providing emotional support. It's very efficient. Vex'tar looked up from the business card. This whole thing was planned? Not exactly planned, Riley said. We knew eventually we'd make contact with other sapient species, and we figured there was a good chance they'd be suspicious of newcomers. So we developed a first contact protocol based on what humans do naturally. We meet strangers by trying to be helpful. But the interrogation, the capture, the torture. All valuable data points, Riley said gently. Though I should mention, none of this was actually torture by human standards. You guys are way too worried about being humane. Real torture is having to listen to your neighbor's music at 3 in the morning, or waiting in line at the Department of Motor Vehicles, or trying to assemble furniture with instructions that were clearly written by someone who hates humanity. Admiral Throcknull's tentacles writhed with confusion. So what happens now? Are you going to conquer us? Destroy our civilization? Demand tribute? Riley looked genuinely puzzled. Why would we do that? You guys have amazing technology, fascinating culture, and you're clearly intelligent. We'd love to trade with you, learn from you, maybe set up some cultural exchange programs. I bet there are Zephyrian scholars who'd love to study human sociology. And we've got anthropologists who'd be thrilled to learn about your social structures. But we tried to torture you. Yeah, that wasn't great, Riley admitted. But you did it because you were scared of us, right? Fear makes people do stupid things. Humans understand that better than most. We've been afraid of each other for our entire history, and we still managed to eventually figure out cooperation. He stood up and stretched, looking around the interrogation chamber with the air of someone finishing up a pleasant business meeting. Besides, this whole experience has been incredibly educational. We've learned that Zephyrian psychology responds well to empathetic listening, that your technology is impressive but over-engineered, and that your military training focuses too much on intimidation and not enough on actual communication. You're not angry? Vex'tar asked. Riley shrugged. Anger's not very useful here. You thought you were protecting your people from a potential threat. Can't fault someone for trying to do the right thing, even if their methods were questionable. He headed toward the door, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Admiral, you might want to update your intelligence files. Earth isn't a primitive backwater. We've got faster than light travel, artificial intelligence, medical technology that can regrow organs, and weapons that can crack moons. We just don't like to brag about it. Then why pretend to be harmless? The Admiral asked. Riley's smile was warm, friendly, and absolutely terrifying. Because, Admiral, we're not the scary humans. The scary humans are back on Earth, designing bigger weapons and better defenses, just in case this whole peaceful first contact thing doesn't work out. We're the diplomats they send when they want to play nice. He waved the business card at Vex'tar. Seriously, call Dr. Wong. And maybe think about that xenobiology career. The galaxy needs more people who are curious about life instead of afraid of it. As Riley Martinez, ordinary cargo hauler and part-time species therapist, strolled out of the interrogation chamber, Admiral Throcknull turned to his subordinate. Commander, what have we learned today? Vex'tar looked at the business card, then at the deactivated torture equipment, then at the door through which the most dangerous human he'd ever met had just casually departed. We've learned, Admiral, that humans are very good at making friends, and that's probably the most terrifying thing in the galaxy. Outside the ship, Riley's communicator chirped with an incoming message from Earth Command. Mission status? He typed back. First contact proceeding smoothly. Recommend upgrading diplomatic corps therapy budget. These people have issues, but they're good people. Also suggest we send some engineers to help them redesign their user interfaces. Seriously, who designed these control panels? The response came back immediately. Understood. How many therapy referrals? Riley looked back at the ship, where he could see through the viewports that several Zephyrian crew members were gathered around what appeared to be an impromptu group counseling session led by Vex'tar, who was holding the business card like a lifeline. Better send the whole team, he typed. This is going to take a while. But I think we're going to like these guys. And in the cargo hold of his ship, next to crates of grain and medical supplies, sat several containers marked with Earth's military designation for diplomatic solutions. Because sometimes the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is a genuine desire to help someone work through their problems. Humanity had arrived in the galactic community, armed with therapy degrees and an inexhaustible supply of emotional support. The galaxy would never be the same.